So we were offline, and we were getting deep into some religious talk. So I do want to I want to cycle back to the beginning of this, because we were talking. I had mentioned that I wanted to read the books that had been removed from the Bible. Now, the reason that books had been removed from the Bible by the Catholic Church, right? But
It wasn't at the time, yes.
it was
Catholic
just
Church.
the church, right? At
At
that
the
time, it was
just
just
the
church.
church. Yes.
And they removed books because they were trying to trim in. They were trying to
Because they either weren't a proper account, they didn't line up with the other stuff talked about in the Bible, and it didn't flow with how the Bible was. So
Right.
if it's a single-hand account, because if it's true in the Bible, it's going to happen at least 3 different times and be talked about 3 different times. That was the standpoint. From my understanding, from my time going to college for all of this.
Guess who isn't educated?
Well, me?
Me.
Oh.
So, but you were saying that.
But you want to read the Lost Files?
I want to read the books that were removed, and you were mentioning that, you said that there were certain books that I should absolutely read, which were the ones that
I would
came
read.
before.
I think it was like 88. I think it's like the 88th book. I think the Geneva Bible is the most recognized to track that. The Geneva Bible was before King James.
Okay.
And that is realistically your truest Bible, as honest and pure as you can get it, from my understanding of doing research. We have one in the house. They're maybe about $150.
Yeah.
It comes with an original printing of the Bible, because some people care about that. But it was like, here we go. I want one in the house that is mine and isn't someone else's or gifted down. I want my own, so I can write it, because all my Bibles are just written in.
So what's important about these books that were removed, and why were they removed?
So a lot of them were removed. So the Book of Enoch, for example, Book of Enoch is, I don't know, a very contentious book.
Hey, you said it right that time.
Yeah, I'm learning. We can learn from Tennessee. But it's a very contentious book, because Enoch kind of has split hairs, because biblically he's someone that was very, very close with God during Noah's time frame. I think he's Noah's great-grandfather, grandfather. Like, that's who he is to Noah.
Right.
But he lives on the mountain, and he's this God-fearing man, and he talks to God all the time. But what's put in the book of Enoch is, well, this is how you become your own God. You own your own planet. You own your own this is what angels look like. So there's some true stuff that's talked about, that is talked about elsewhere in the Bible. Then there's others like, well, the only time you talk about owning your own planet, are you talking about owning your own planet because you have your own mansion, because you have your own house, like,
because you are your own planet internally with the soul, or
so there's some things that didn't either translate when they translated it, or didn't make sense. And a lot of the translators, when they translated from Bible to version to Bible version, they took out tenses of it. So from going from he and her, it goes to a neutral tense. It's like, whoa. We just went from the table is a masculine or feminine pretense to it's neutral.
That's a weird move.
It's like we lost translation here.
Yeah.
And then from table being neutral, it's now been translated another couple more times, which is where you get King James, where you get New King James, NLT, NIV. It's where you get all those. But just starting at Geneva, the Geneva Bible has more of them in there, that it covers more and it gives you more. You can look at the lost books of the Bible, and you can read, I think there's 27, and you can just dive into and read them. They're all over the internet. You can read them for free.
And they're worthwhile.
They're interesting.
Can you get worthwhile information?
Yes, and I could easily make an argument And me and other pastors and other ordained ministers have had conversations about, well, this could be argued that it could be in the Bible with this specific chapter, this specific verse, because it's talked about in Psalms or in Proverbs or in John or in Revelation. And we have these 3 different accounts of this specific event happening.
So why wouldn't you include everything that was all the books that were removed?
Realistically, because crazy talk. Putting it very, very simple, the down and dirty, is because it's crazy talk. You get to people talking about, well, you become your own God. Okay, well, let me historically back up. Let me understand if I control everything in my house and I have to answer for everything in my house, what does that make? That makes me the God of my house.
Right.
I still report to God, but everything that happens in my house, I'm responsible for. Everyone I bring into my house, I'm responsible for.
And if we translate that to our understanding of God's relationship as the one true God.
But what you just said,
that
if we translate...
Hold on, let me finish. In the statement of there are many gods, but there is only one true God.
Nowhere in Christianity do we say Buddha doesn't exist or Allah doesn't exist.
Right.
There are many other gods, but there's only one true God.
Right.
And we see this in the Old Testament. It's like, well, yeah, their gods were still making altars and fires come out of. It's like, well, just drench it in water because our God's the true God. Just drench it in water, soak it, get soaked wood, and then, boom, fire. It's like, oh wow, that God knows something. Like, he's doing something.
Right.
But no, a lot of the reason, from my understanding, why the books were taken out
is because it sounded too crazy.
It not so much crazy.
Now we're saying it sounded too crazy in comparison to the rest of the Bible, which there's some crazy ass fucking shit in the Bible.
Oh, you're right. We made fun of an old man in the middle of the desert as a bunch of teenagers, and bears came out and mauled teenagers to death. A group of teenagers. Okay, you know that story? What about the fat king that was assassinated, but everybody thought he was having a bowel movement, so nobody went and checked on him? No, not that one. I mean, everybody knows about Samson. It's like, God, I'm bald now, but can you just give me power so I can, just give me my strength back so I can kill 6,000 people?
Yeah.
Numbers still disputed. It's like, or what about, we had a dude on a cross and he saved a person and he died and went to hell and then took the keys of hell, took the keys of death, and came out of there? Well, I thought hell was a one-way journey. Well, we're talking about someone, a God, a man, a God-man that came down and changed who he was so he could be a perfect man, dealt with sin his whole life for his 30-plus years.
Right.
Died, went through all of this, came back so he could just be a sheep.
Resurrected. Not only was he resurrected, but resurrected someone else.
Yep. Like, we're trying to understand something that's incomprehensible.
So, with this understanding that we're already dealing with incomprehensible, the removed books are a step further away from that? Or is it that just they can't be corroborated somewhere else?
I think it's more, my belief is they can't be more corroborated.
Why do they need to be corroborated? Because they were originally part of the Bible, right?
They were originally put into the collection, yes.
They were the collection that eventually became the Bible, right?
Yes.
But that wasn't good enough?
And I don't know. I'd have to study more on why we removed books.
Well, I mean, the reason we removed books, running on theories and running on some of the stuff that
well, the Catholic Church had its own hands in a lot of things. Dead Sea Scrolls, perfect example.
They had a very intentional reason why they did things. Stuff got removed because it did not line up with the direction that the church wanted to go.
And hands down, Catholic Church has had so much a hand in modifying how the Bible was read. Think about it. It's like, was it the Dark Times, the Dark Ages? Dark Ages. We didn't have access to the Bible. They weren't the Dark Ages for any other reason other than we didn't have access to the living Word.
I thought that they were the Dark Ages because there was a fallen civilization. Because didn't we lose access to certain technologies that we had at that time?
We lost access to a literature. Because literature wasn't being published. Because it wasn't being broadcast. The church stopped broadcasting the Bible. And all the other literature, they just closed their doors. The Dark Ages were the Dark Ages because the Catholic Church closed the doors on all knowledge they had.
Which realistically, they haven't stopped that because there's a bunch of shit and objects and literature and other items that are still within the Catholic Church that haven't been let go, that people can't see to this day.
Oh, yeah. For hundreds of years. Think about it. The popes that have tried to push things out, 1700s, how come they only lived for 3 years?
Yeah, I mean...
Like, think about it. They weren't old. We're talking 30s and 40s. Oh, well, the king killed them. The king was in a war with Israel or the Middle East.
Yeah, they were fighting Muslims.
Like, you were... Exactly. They weren't... You think
they weren't
cares
even
about...
on the West Coast.
Yeah.
They were nowhere nearby.
But history says the king killed him. Beheaded him. So there's things in history that don't align with the Catholic Church.
I don't want to say, like, I don't want this conversation to become us saying that the Catholic Church is...
No, and don't get me pushing what I'm saying. Again, this is my specific understanding of how it's being...
I think that there has been deviation and misdirection. People have taken advantage of certain situations that happen within the Catholic Church, right?
Correct.
And stuff has not gone necessarily the way that it was intended to, but I think that could be said for any of the churches or any of the organizations or even small Christian groups who are meeting in someone's basement.
Oh, all the time.
I think that can always be the case. So I'm not blaming the Catholic Church, and I'm not saying that Catholics are evil or even necessarily wrong. Do I disagree with the way...
Do I disagree with the approach? Potentially, yeah.
Potentially. However...
Could I be missing things? Oh,
could I be wrong?
Another thing, yeah.
100%. I could be wrong. I will not know until I meet God.
And that's why I will always say, from my understanding, from my research, the best of my knowledge, this. And if I'm wrong, throw a comment down below. Throw a response. Like, let us know.
Like we will have it out with you in a friendly manner.
We will. I'm all for good conversation, especially religious conversation. I went to seminary for a couple years. Realized it's not for me. But, throw a comment down below. I'll respond.
And I am a Christian. I am not the best Christian out there. I say this over and over again. I'm not the best Christian out there.
Hey, you know what? Someone once told me, love God, love people. And I try to live by that. So...